All right, so our classic movie is The Departed.
The Departed. All right, so The Departed is a pretty much a cat and mouse movie directed by Martin Scorsese, where Leonardo DiCaprio is working for the New York City Police Department, and he's going undercover in a crime organization led by Frank, who's played brilliantly by. Oh, I blanked out for a sec. Jack Nicholson.
Yep.
But the thing is, Jack Nicholson has an undercover informant of his own, his son, played by Matt Damon, who's going undercover in the New York Police Department. So it's pretty much this movie is pretty much a whole cat and mouse game to try and expose one another and take down the crime organization. So Jackson, what did you think of The Departed?
Well, first of all, thank you for describing the plot because even though I understood the plot really well, I would not have described it like quite as well as you did. I
You're
would have
welcome.
probably described it like there's this one guy and he's like a cop, but he's not really a cop, and then there's this other guy who's like working for the Jack Nicholson, and he's a bad guy, but really he's good, and they both have a girlfriend that's like the same girlfriend. Like I would have done a terrible job. Um, but wow, this movie, like, okay, if we're just talking about the plot alone, uh, this like, okay, sorry to be like describing it like this, but this movie did blow me away in a lot of ways. I want to just go ahead and say this, and I don't say this lightly, but I think that the relationship that is established between Leonardo DiCaprio's character and Matt Damon's character, and these are two characters that do not share any on-screen time
Right.
at all until like the last 30 minutes, and this is like a 2.5 hour long movie. The relationship that is built up between these two characters who are not together and like really don't even know that the other one exists throughout most of the movie. Um, like it's a really well done like relationship between these two that's like set up sort of, and it's not, and you wouldn't even really call it a relationship because they're not acting together, but they are uh, like the effects of like the things that one will do will affect the other and vice versa, and their plot lines are constantly intersecting, but they don't quite meet yet. There's a lot of points where they're like, like one
Yeah.
is on one end of a heist or a scam or something, and the other one is on the other end, and
It's cat and mouse, like to a
one's working for
T.
Jack. Yeah, it really is. One's working for Jack Nicholson, but really isn't. One isn't working for Jack Nicholson, but he really is. Like it's so cool. It's a really really great story. Um,
The thing I
I
love
just
about it too is that I think the actors were chosen in such perfect casting because
I know.
Mark Wahlberg's in this movie and he plays kind of like that like classic like rough 'em up street like cop pretty much. And he could in any other movie he could be overly exaggerated to what he's doing.
Hmm.
But I think is because his character works the way the character setup is just so well done, it works in this movie. And
I
that's
don't
just
know.
like great directing.
I don't know. I will admit I did think he was a little over exaggerated. I didn't think he was bad,
But
but
that's his character though.
sort of, but it didn't really match it like the other characters in the movie, in my opinion. Like Jack Nicholson could have been really over the top, but he wasn't. Mark Wahlberg especially was just kind of over the top. But again, I didn't think he was bad. It just the performance didn't necessarily land for me. But it's interesting that you say it though that it worked for you because I mean just sort of different interpretations of
Yeah.
sort of that performance, and I guess that
Oh
would
wait,
sort of
sorry.
lead into.
I don't
I
know
mean
why I
that
said.
would.
Sorry, I don't know why I said New York. It's Boston.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why I keep saying New York. Anyway,
I should have caught you on that. But yeah, like I said, Mark Wahlberg's performance wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, but it wasn't bad. And the thing is, all these performances are really good. It's almost distracting how many A-list actors are in this movie. Like,
it is like
holy
Matt
crap!
Damon, like
Leonardo
probably his best
DiCaprio
performance,
and
like his best performance since Good Will Hunting,
yeah,
hands
he
down.
was great. Leonardo DiCaprio was amazing as well.
Yeah,
Jack Nicholson sort of, I think, dialed it back a little bit for this movie, and I think it really was a good performance from him as
it really
well.
was.
Um, and like I said, even though I thought Mark Wahlberg was a little over the top, I mean, there wasn't a bad performance in this movie. Let me just put it like that. Like there wasn't even there was no bland performance in this movie either. Like everybody like fit pretty well with their roles in it. Um, I don't know. I mean, this is just a really well done movie.
And it's
What I
a
was gonna
okay.
say real quick though about that relationship I was talking about between Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio. I think number one, the fact that those two, you wouldn't necessarily think they look like each other, but when you see them both like in the same movie enough, they sort of start to blend together in a way, and like I mean that in a good way, like uh, because you almost feel like that they're both the protagonist here, and it almost sort of blends to be like almost like one character, but like two different like sides of a of,
Yeah,
and not even like one character, but like one central idea of this like character of like who basically portrays like betrayal, and it's like that theme is sort of woven into one idea, which almost makes one character between the two. And the fact that they like don't really interact throughout most of the movie, and then they do at the end, just makes that tension at the end so much better. Because I mean, like the scene where one of them calls the other one on the phone, like that scene is not only really well edited
it
and really well
just
paced, but like just what you sense there from those two characters, them finally talking, it's just like just chills, man. I mean,
and there's some shootout scenes
it's
in this
chilling.
movie, like some really great shootout scenes that are really tight knit and well edited. And you watch it, and like coming from an editor standpoint, that is not easy to do.
And also,
Like it's
like,
not easy. The way it's edited, like the way it's
yeah.
shot, like the way your actors should be directed in certain scenes and like where they're going, like in the area of the setting, it was not easy to do, and it's pulled off just flawlessly.
Well, and the way those shootout scenes like go is just so unpredictable. Like, you really don't know who's gonna live and who's gonna die.
Like you really
Like,
don't like,
you're
especially
always on the
like
edge of your seat with it. I mean, like, no one is
really
safe.
the edge of my seat wasn't those shootout scenes, but it was pretty much just the cat and not the cat and mouse aspect of it of like who's gonna catch who first, like who's gonna expose who first, like throughout the entire dialogue heavy scenes throughout this movie. That was the most tension for me.
Well, that's the thing. This dialogue is really well written. This movie is extremely well edited. I mean, I might say that this could be in my top five or top three like best edited movies of all time. The pacing is so damn good. I just
Keep in
gotta
mind as
say,
well, this is a 2.5 hour movie.
it does not feel like 2.5
I watched
hours
this right here on my screen. Let's see if I can flip my camera over here. On my screen right here.
with the
I
laundry
sat
basket.
here. Yeah, my laundry basket because I'm packing for vacation. But anyway, I sat here for about 45 minutes. Didn't even know.
Oh
It
yeah,
just
and
right over
this
my
is a
head.
movie I'm gonna watch again, and I'll probably watch it like more and more times. Like it's that
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I mean, especially because there's so many details in this plot. Like you can tell, like that whoever wrote it just really, really thought it all out. Like there's so many details. Like I mean, you blink and you miss something. Like there's just so much happening, and
And then
there's no filler like in this movie at all. It's plot from beginning to end. Like just like none of the bull crap. Just like a lot packed into a fairly short time span, honestly.
yeah, like me, like I watched this and I was thinking to myself, like, because the plot's kind of crazy in a way, where it's like they're sending informants and the
Yeah.
way they get to their positions is crazy, but it makes so much sense why they're there with what's in like the writing of this movie and what they do to get there. It's just like one of those things like you think like, wow, this wouldn't work in any other movie but this movie. This movie wouldn't be the same if it was directed by someone else for sure.
Well, yeah. Morton, not I almost said. Why did I say Morton? Martin Scorsese is at his best here.
It really is like he won Best Picture for this movie.
He deserves
Out
it.
of all of his movies, yeah,
I mean,
crazy,
of the movies I've seen of his, this is my favorite.
yeah. Well, I mean, I like Taxi Driver a little bit better, but that's just personal opinion. I mean, they're
Yeah.
both great movies.
I don't think I've seen a movie that is this well paced, if I'm being honest, or at least this well paced with this much material in it.
Oh no, like it's so fascinating to watch. Like if there's one thing that I would want to like leave a viewer with is like watching this movie, it's fascination and curiosity. That's what's gonna be going through your head as you're watching The Departed for sure.
Yeah, it's funny too that you and I sort of have a similar story with this movie. Is that both of us had like seen parts of this movie before we decided to review it, but neither of us had seen the whole thing through. And then we both did recently, and we were both just like, "This movie's awesome! Like, why did we not
Yeah.
watch this sooner?" Honestly,
Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
how many minutes are we at for this review?
We are actually about to hit it right now.
About to hit it. All right,
Yeah.
so we've gushed about this movie. Ivan, was there anything at all you didn't like about this movie, or you thought maybe could have been a little improved?
There was some moments. I felt like the end was a little bit rushed in some ways, but that was about it.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you on that. Like I said, I felt like Mark Wahlberg was a little over the top, but the thing is like, even though I felt like he seemed a little out of place with that particular performance, I still think that his character worked well in the movie.
Oh, he did.
And
That's the thing.
I
He
think
worked so well.
the fact that he was a little different also kind of added to it. So I wouldn't even necessarily say it's much of a complaint, but it's a little bit of one. And then like you said, the ending, considering how much is packed into this movie, um, the ending does kind of come like very fast, and you're like, what? It's over? That's it? Like all this,
Yeah,
you know? But
it's really well
and
paced.
and I guess the ending. I mean, this isn't different from too many other movies, but it does. This movie does sort of have like uh I wouldn't necessarily call it multiple climaxes, but there are sort of like multiple like endings. Like there are sort of multiple scenes where you sort of feel like, all right, that's got to be it. That's got to be, and then next scene comes and you're like, well, what's going to happen now? You know, Jack Nicholson dies, and you're like, well, that's got to be the end of the movie, right? And then it's like, oh wait,
No,
it's like
there's
no,
more.
Matt Damon, and Leonardo DiCaprio. They guys, they gotta
They got a little other thing going on.
yeah, they gotta settle this whole thing, and then it's like, oh wait, now this is happening. You know, and now one of them's dead, and they're at the funeral, and well, I guess that's it. And it's like, oh no, Mark Wahlberg at the end. What?
Yeah, I mean,
And then,
there's some things logistically that don't make too much sense.
yeah,
But that's
that
yeah.
ending was crazy. And then the little rat at the end was such a nice touch.
Oh yeah,
That was great.
it's
But all
beautiful.
right, Ivan, what would you rate The Departed?
I would give it a 9 out of 10.
So would I. 9 out of
All
10.
right.